Welcome to the Fail Forward podcast. The purpose of this podcast is change the negative stigma around failure into a positive. Failure is only a negative if we do not learn from it and we give up. Welcome back to the Fail Forward podcast. So today I'm going to be talking about when to say no, to stop doing what you're doing, or to pivot slightly. So as you know, I've always said, failure is only a negative if you do not learn from it and you give up. But that's always been with a slight caveat that giving up you can do as long as you carry on your drive and determination. And when I mean give up completely and just don't get back up from where I got from when I was really depressed. And I could have just, at that point, just thought life had failed me and just give up business, life itself, lost even more of my life. But it's the whole give up is really giving up on your dreams and goals, letting the fear of failure get in, or the damaging effect of failure get in your head, and you just stop doing what you're doing. But I think there's something really profound and amazing about when you do stop doing something, because as I talked about as well, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And I was doing that for such a long time in the business. I was working for the same client, and just trying to do it a different way, but not wanting to give up. And what I'll give you context exactly into the tree surgery business. There was a moment about 2 years before the business went under where we lost the contract, and we were made to retender for it again. We did, and we didn't win it. And we what we should have done at that point is had about 35 guys, I think. I don't know the exact number. What I should have done is, this is the point where I say we should have, and this is why I say knowing when to change what you're doing or saying no or stopping is really important. What I should have done is I should have at that point laid off 80% of the business and gone back down to maybe 2 or 3 teams, 8 or 9 guys, restarted and rebuilt. But instead, I made the decision to go and subcontract to another company for lesser rates. And actually, we end up scaling up the business because we tried doing more work for less profit, but doing it on a larger scale, a bit like what Tesco's do. I think their profit margin's like 3%, and they do it on a massive scale. And obviously not going to Tesco's size, but we then scaled up to like 47 staff at that point. And what I should have done, looking back, is just gone, okay, well, we didn't win the contract, so what we're going to do is we're just going to step back slightly. Now, there were quite a lot of factors within this decision. One was that I had a great cultured business and I like to look after the staff, and I knew everybody's names, children's names, pet names, gerbil names. We had a really tight group of people, and I didn't want to lay people off. I also had a very positive mindset that I believed that we could carry on making it work. And thirdly, I was completely naive because at this point I didn't know my numbers. And because I didn't know my numbers, I couldn't make those difficult decisions. And if I'd have known my numbers and I'd really sat down and crunched it all, I would have known that things might not have worked out and I was taking a bigger risk than I realised I was actually taking at the time. And that would have led me to making that big decision. But I think there's something very strong about making, I'm not just talking about business decisions, I'm talking about any decisions, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in a habit that you're doing, something that you're currently in. Giving up doesn't have to be, or stopping what you're doing doesn't have to be to go backwards. It can actually be to go forward. And I think I could have taken a couple of steps back to go forward, because actually what happened is we carry on trading for a couple of years. We made a bit, we lost a bit, and we made a lot, we lost a bit. But in fact, we ended up losing overall. And in the end, the business went under and I had to lay those guys off. So I actually prolonged the inevitable for 2 years because I was doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. We were always trying to change the way we were working, trying to work out how we could get more work done, how we could, get the teams more productive and how we made streamline the business more. But ultimately, all it ended up doing was actually I wasn't strong enough to make that decision, which what actually happened when the business went under. That's what made the decision for me. And that's why I really wanted to talk about in this episode the importance of understanding when it is time to just say, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to give up on this business, this revenue stream, whatever it is I'm doing, and I'm going to do something else. I'm not giving up because I've still got my goals and dreams. I'm just going to do something slightly different. So that's why I really wanted to talk about that and go into depth, because I know I always say, business is failure is only a negative if you do not learn from it and you give up. I just wanted to give some context in giving up. What I mean is giving up on life completely, but giving up and trying something different. There can be something really powerful about that, is saying no. And saying no sometimes, I've read a book recently, The One Thing, and it was really, really insightful when he talks in there about saying no to people. When people ask you, and we talked about it in a previous episode about networking, like you could get lost in a rabbit hole of just going and doing coffees and one-to-ones with people, knowing when to say no to things, because it's so easy to say yes to a lot of things. And before you know it, 2 months have gone by and you've said yes to every opportunity or coffee or meet up or job or whatever it is. And then you've not actually got any further towards your goals. So there's something really powerful about either stopping doing something that's not working for you or your business and saying no to opportunities, or not necessarily opportunities, but, coffees and different things like that. So, yeah, it's just to understand that we can make those big decisions, and actually trying to find the information. And I've talked about it in the past about we have 2 different parts of our brain. We've got the thinking part of our brain, which is like the rider, and then we've got our emotional part of our brain, which is the elephant. And our emotions always make the decisions. But what we need to do is be getting our the elephant always wins, is getting our rider, our thinking part, to be feeding the right information. And that's exactly what I wasn't doing a couple of years ago, a couple of years before the business went under. I didn't have the right information to be feeding my emotional part. I was making it all on emotion. So saying, I like these guys, this is a good team, I want to be with them. That was my emotional side, my positive emotional side. But what I wasn't doing was giving it the facts and figures. And that's why, I've talked about the 4 pillars in a previous episode. Numbers is always the number one thing that will help you make those right decisions. But then having the right systems in place, the sales and marketing, et cetera, is going to help you make those really important decisions in your business. Knowing the data to feed your rider, to feed its elephant, to then make those right decisions, and then looking back at things and saying, right, what do I need to change? Having constant reviews, like I talk about in the previous episode with the 90-day planning, making sure every 90 days you're seeing what works and seeing what doesn't, and then making those important decisions to change and move. And then the compound effect will work with you in a positive way, because you'll be making small changes rather than doing what I had to do, which was make a humongous change and then having to the business going under and having to lay off a big chunk of people. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about today, the importance of either saying no, stopping doing something, or giving up and then keep carrying on. So as I say, failure doesn't have to be a negative. It is a positive as long as you learn from it and you do not give up, but with the caveat that I've spoke to in this episode. So I hope that helps you all, and I shall see you next time. Thanks all for listening.